Okay, so there are various UI components which we can basically create using HTML and CSS, like text, images, buttons, and a lot of more things. Now, the main thing over here is that you will be using something, regularly, while there will be few things which we don't use regularly, right? So the regular things are like images, text, buttons, videos, right? Now, let us visit few of the websites. Let us suppose we visit something like Amazon.com. Now, over here, you will be able to see that we are having a lot of images, right? With this, we are also having a lot of text, which are basically, identifying the objects, or we are specifying some certain deals, prices, right? Now, with this, we can also visit one more website like Wikipedia. Now, over here, you'll be seeing that this website is majorly using text with images. So by seeing these things, you will be able to understand that text is one of the major components. So what we'll be doing in this section, we'll be covering the entire text. We'll be understanding how text are basically being created using HTML. We'll be also seeing how we can style this text using CSS. So let us jump into the world of text. So before moving on with our text section, it is important that we create one more file, which will be our styles file. So we can come over here and navigate to this. Now, simply say styles.css. Now, the styles.css is a CSS file which refers to cascading styles sheet. Now, it is generally being used to style our HTML file. Now, firstly, we have to link this styles.css with our HTML. For this, what we can do, we can come after this title and we can simply say link. Now, over here, you will be able to see this relation as style sheet. Now, we have to refer to our styles.css. So we can simply say styles.css. Now, after doing this, our style sheet is being linked with our HTML file. Now, what is the difference between a HTML and a CSS file? Now, HTML basically defines the structure of the website, while styles.css handles the styling part of the structure. Now, let us understand HTML and CSS file using a very simple example. Let us suppose we have a car. Now, this car will be having a chassis, and over that chassis, we'll be basically having seat covers, paints, all of that glass materials. So all of these things, is basically known as our CSS file, while the chassis is our HTML file. Now, chassis is the backbone, or we can say it is the one which is basically defining the structure, while the other parts like the seat cover, or we can say the paint, the mirrors, all of this is basically styling that particular structure, right? So this is the simple, a difference between HTML file and a CSS file. Okay, now let us see our website. So how can we see our website? So we can come over here to this bottom navigation, and you will be seeing this click to run live server. Now, if you have installed the live server extension, which I have shown you during installation of the IDE, you will be able to see this. So you have to click on this, and you will be able to see our website. Now here, there is nothing which we are able to see because we are having nothing in our body tag. Now over here, you'll be seeing this document, the tab name, because we have already discussed, right, that this, this title basically defines the title of the tab. Now we can remove this and let us say something like as text styling, right? And let us save this and let us see our website now. So now we are able to see this text styling as, our tab name, right? Now, what we'll be doing, we'll be basically, making this thing more interactive. So what we can do, we can simply bring this, CSS file over here. Now, we can also drag this CSS file out of this boundary. Now, what we'll be doing, we'll be basically placing this item correctly in our screen. So we can come over here and let us say we are keeping our HTML file over here, keep our CSS file on there, and we can keep our, we can say browser below this. Now we'll be able to see all the things which we'll be doing throughout this period, okay? Now let me click on this again to minimize this section. So let us begin our text journey. Now the first thing which we'll be learning in text is heading. Now how do we specify a heading in HTML? So we have H1 over here, and we can press enter. Now H1 basically specifies the heading level 1. We can have a heading something like welcome to the world of text. And if we save this, we'll be able to see this H1 over here. Now similarly, we have different H also, or we can say heading also, like H2, which is a lower level of H1. So we can say welcome to the world of text, something like that. And if we save, we'll be able to see this, right? So similarly, we can create more headings like H3. So we can say I am a H3. Similarly, we can have H4, and we have this number till H6. So we have, we can say H4, and then we have H5 also. Now we can say I am a H5, and then we have H6 also, okay? Now it is something like, we can say, it will be like I am a H6. And if we refresh, we'll be able to see different headings, right? Like, the H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Now see how they are, different in sizes. So we can see this H1 is the highest one with the size, while the S6 is the lowest, right? Now it is completely upon you how you want to use this. Now for now, I'll be only keeping this H1. Okay, now what we can do is, we can also increase the size and all of that things. But before that, you remember what I told you, that HTML file basically defines the structure. And the structure over here is this H1. Well, the styling part, like its font size, how it will look, all of this has to be done using our styles.css, right? So we can come over to the styles.css, and over here, we can simply select this H1. So we can say H1, and then we'll be having this curly braces. And over here, we can simply say font size, and let us make this font size something like 50 pixels, okay? And if we refresh, we'll be able to see this text has, increased in the size. The reason is, we have selected this H1 using this selector, which is H1, and we have increased its size to 50 pixels, right? Or we can also decrease it to 30 pixels, and we'll be able to see that the text size has been reduced, right? Now let us move on. Now the next thing which we'll be learning is how we do basic text styling. So we can simply say H2, and let us say something like basic text styling, right? And let us refresh. We'll be able to see this H2 over here, which is basic text styling. Now, with this heading, we also have one more thing, paragraphs. Now, how do we define a paragraph? We define a paragraph using the p tag. Now, over here, between this opening and closing p tag, we can basically have different things. Like we can say, this is a paragraph, something like that. And if we refresh, we'll be able to see this paragraph, right? Now, what we can do is, we can make, any text. Let us suppose we can make any text bolder, or we can make any text, something like italic. How do we do it? For this, what we'll be doing, we can come over here, and let us say we want to make this paragraph as bold. How do we do it? So we can come over here, and we can say something like strong. And in this strong, we can basically pass this paragraph, right? So now over here, we'll be able to see this. This paragraph, this paragraph over here is bolder than this remaining text, right? Because we have defined this paragraph to be of type strong, which basically emphasizes its, importance over the remaining text, right? Now, similarly, we also have one more thing, and we can say something like this text is italic, something like that. And we can keep this italic in something like, an emphasis tag. So how we do it? We can simply come over here and we can say EM. Now we can pass this italic text between this EM, tags. So we can simply come over here and place this italic over here. And now if we refresh, we'll be able to see this emphasis tag, and it is looking like italic, right? Now there are a few more things. Let us understand that things one by one. Now the more things, for this we can simply have another H2. And now here we can say something like as text alignment. Now, text alignment will basically make you understand how you can align a text. How do we do it? let us suppose we come over here, we can say P, and in this P, we can simply say something like this paragraph, is center. And then we can have another paragraph, something like that. And then we can say this paragraph, is line 2, right? Now, the main problem over here is that, let us suppose I try to select this entire P, and if I do so, and let us say I say text align, and I say center, now it will basically, make all of this text to center, right? Like this. But what I am wanting over here, I want this, only this text to be in the center, and I don't want the remaining text to come to center. How do we do it? How do we distinguish between all of this paragraph? So for this, what we can do is we can use another selector like class. So for now, what we can do is we can come to this P and we can have an attribute over here, something like as, we can say a class, and we can pass a text over here, which will basically uniquely identify this paragraph container. We can say something as centered text. And if we do so, and now let us select this center tag. Now, how do we, select a class? We use a dot and then we write the same name, which was centered text. And if we do it and we refresh it, we'll be able to see this text only in the center, while the remaining texts are, still in the left-hand side. Now, let us move this, this text to the right-hand side. How do we do it? For this, what we have to do, we have to come over here. Let us also give it an attribute of class, and we can say something like, we can say right align text. And now we can come over here, and then we can also have a dot again, and we can say right align text. And then we can simply say text align, and we can say right. And if we do it, see this text is in the right-hand side, right? So this is how you basically align the text. Now in the next section, we'll be learning how text decoration work. For this, let us come to this, this index file, and below this, we can have another h2, and we can say something as text decoration, right? So we can say text decoration. And now in this text decoration, we can have different paragraphs. So how do we define a class to a paragraph directly? We can have this P, then we can have this dot, and then we can simply say underlined, underlined, and we can say underlined text. Now we can have a text over here. So we can say this, something like this. We can have this text is underlined, right? Now we can have another paragraph over here, and let us give it a class, something like strike through, something like strike through text, something like that. And we can say this text is strike through, right? And now we can have another paragraph over here, and let us say something like no decoration, like that, okay? Decoration. And now we can say something like this text has no decoration, something like that, okay? I will be selecting each of these classes one by one. So we can say this underlined text over here. Let us come over here, have this dot, and place this underlined text, and your curly braces. And now we can simply say something like text decoration. And now we were doing this as underline. We can say underline. And if we refresh, and if we come back, we have to also save this one. We will be seeing this text is underlined, right? Now let us select this strike through text. Now we can come over here, have a dot, paste this item, have the curly braces, and then we can say text decoration, something like, we can say line through. And if we save it, we'll be able to see a line, going above this, right? Now we can have one more one, which was this no decoration. Let us select this. Let us place a dot over here. And then we'll be having this text decoration as none. And if we refresh, we'll be able to see no change because we have made the text decoration to none, which is by default none, right? Now, the next thing which we'll be understanding about text transformation. So let us see how we transform a text. For this, we can come below this. Let us have another heading, and we can say something like, text, we can say transform, right? Something like that. Now we can have different paragraphs again. So we can have something like p dot uppercase text. Let us say this is uppercase text, right? Now we can have one more, something like p dot lower text, like that. We can say lowercase text, right? Press enter, and we can say this is lower case text, right? Like that. Now we can have one more paragraph which will basically say something like class, and here we can simply have capitalized text, and now we can say this text is capitalized, or we can say capitalized, right? We can save this, and we'll be able to see this text below this. Now let us change the decoration of each one of this, or we can say let us transform each one of this text. We can select this one, which was our uppercase text, come over here, have a dot, place this uppercase text, come below this, and say something like text transform, and then we can say something like uppercase. I will be able to see this text is converted to uppercase completely, right? Now we can have the next one, which was our lowercase text, and we'll transform this lowercase text. So let us say text transform, and we can say something like lowercase, and if we do it, the entire text has been converted to lowercase, right? Now let us make the last text as capitalized. So we can select this capitalized text, come over here, have a dot, paste this one, have the curly braces, come down, and then say text transform, and say something like capitalized. And if we refresh it, you'll be able to see this text as being capitalized. Okay, now in the next section, we'll be learning about letter and word spacing. Okay, for this, let us create another H2, and here we can simply say, letter and word spacing, something like that. Okay, now below this H2, we can have two paragraphs. Let us have the first paragraph, and let us give it a class something like wide letter spacing, and here we can simply say this text has a wider letter spacing, something like that. Now after this, we can have another paragraph with a class wide word spacing, and here we will be having the text. We can say this text has a wider word spacing, something like that. Now let us save this. Let us scroll this down. Now we are having this to text. Now scroll this down also. Now let us select this one, the first one, which was our wide letter spacing. Copy this one, have a dot over here for selecting the class. Now have the curly braces. Now over here, we can simply say something like letter spacing, and let us give it a letter spacing of 2 pixels. Now if we do it, you can see now that the letters are having much more spaces than the other paragraphs, right? Now let us do the word spacing. For this, we can again have the dot for the class, and then we can simply say wide word spacing, and here we can simply come over here and we can say word spacing, and let us increase the word spacing to maybe 5 pixels. And if we do it, now see what is happening over here. This text are now having a much wider spacing over here. Okay, now let us understand how we can increase the line height of the paragraphs. For this, we can come over here. Now let us have another heading after this, and we can say something like H2, and we can say line height over here. And then we can have a paragraph with a class name of, something like, we can say wide line height. And then we can have a paragraph over here, and this paragraph can be anything, something like this text has we can say has a wider line height, something like that. Let us save this. Now over here, what we can do, we can come over here, select this class, which was basically this wide line height. So we can simply say wide line height like that. And then we can simply come down and we can say line height of maybe 2. And if we save this, we come down. Now see this text, this text over here, it is basically having a much higher line, height than the remaining, paragraphs. How can we see it? For this, we can have another paragraph below this, something like, text paragraph, something like that. Save it. And if you come below this, now see the difference, the gap difference between this two texts, and see the gap difference between this two texts. The reason is this text is having a line height of 2, due to which the space is much higher, right? Now, in the next section, we'll be learning about text shadow. Let us see how we can create shadow. For this, what we have to do, we have to come down. Now, let us create another H2 and let us have something like, we can say text shadow, and then we can basically have a paragraph, and we can give a class to this paragraph, something like class, and we can say something like, we can say text shadow. Okay, we can have a text over here, and we can say this text as a shadow. Okay, now what we will be doing, we'll be basically selecting this text. We can come down and now select this text class, which was text shadow. And then inside this text shadow, what we can do is we can simply say something like, we can increase the font size. We can simply say font size, maybe, we can say 20 pixels, something like that. And then we can have this text shadow over here. Now we have to define the spread. It will be 2 pixels, 2 pixels. Now the shadow spread will be of 4 pixels. And then we can define a color. Now it can be a RGB color or a RGBA color. Now here we'll be using this RGBA, while this A is the alpha value, which basically defines, the transparency of the color. Okay, so here we'll be having a value of 0. Then this green will be also 0. And this will also be a 0, which combinedly defines the color of black. Now we'll be reducing this, this opacity to something like 0.5, something like that. And if we save it, and now we'll be able to see this, that this text has a shadow, right? So we are seeing this text is having a shadow, right? Now let us move on to the next section, where we'll be understanding about superscript and subscript. For that, what you have to do, you have to come below this, have another heading, and we can say something like superscript, and then we can say subscript, something like that. And let us save. Let us make this H2, because we are wanting an H2 over here, not an H1. Okay, now let us zoom this out. Okay, now we are having this text, right? Now what we can do, we can basically have 2 paragraphs, one for the subscript and one for the superscript. Now the first one will be basically the, the superscript. So we can say this is superscript, and then we can have something like as 10, and then we can simply say soup, and here we can pass something like value of 2. And if we refresh, we'll be able to see this 10 to the power 2, right? So it is done using the superscript. Similarly, we have subscript. Now, the chemical formulas and all of that basically use this subscript. Let us see how we can do it. So we can have this paragraph, and now in this paragraph, we can say this is a subscript, something like that. And in the subscript, what we'll be doing, we can have something like H, and then we can say, sub. So it will be basically H sub, and then we can basically pass a value of something like, H2, and then we can say something like O at the end, right? So it will be O in capital. Perfect. Now we can bring the superscript down over here. Let us save this. We'll be able to see this chemical formula of H2O, right? And you can see this too, how it is coming below this H, right? So it is basically been achievable using Subscript. While if you want to, write formulas and you want this Superscript, you can use the Superscript. Okay. Now in the next section, we'll be deep diving into more awesome things like how do we have a custom font family. So let us understand how we can define a custom font family. Let us have another text over here, or we can say a heading over here, and then we'll be having something like custom font family, right? And then we can have a paragraph, and let us say custom font as its class. Okay, I will be saying this is having a custom font. How do we specify a custom font? For that, what you have to do, you have to simply come to your browser, search for Google Fonts. Okay, and in this Google font, you can come over here. Now you'll be seeing different Google fonts over here. Let us suppose we want to use this Roboto font. We can select this. Now you'll be able to click on this Get Font. Now you'll be having this Get Embedded Code. Now see, we are having two codes over here, right? Now the first one is this link, and the next one is this import. Now, if you want to, assign this to your CSS, you can use this import. While if you want to link it using your HTML file, you can click on this. So let us suppose we, link it with our HTML. So copy this code, come back to your code, and here we can simply say something like, we can come up, and here after this link of style sheet, we can come down and let us paste this. Okay, so we have to actually paste it above the style sheet. We have pasted this. Now we can directly use this, this font. How do we use it? Come back. You'll be seeing this use case, right? So you can see if we can simply write this font family Roboto, and we can have another default font if it doesn't work to as sans serif. So we'll be copying this out. Come back. Now here we'll be having this, right? Let us, select this font, which was our custom font. How do we do it? We can come over here. Let us increase the size a little bit. Okay, so we can come over here. Let us select this one, which was our custom font. So we can say custom font. We can say custom font, something like that. And here we can have this font family as this, right? What we can do, we can also increase the font size. Let us increase the font size to be maybe something like as 20 pixels only. Or, let us make it 20 pixels. And let us save it. Come back. Let us check our website. Now over here. Okay, so we have to also save this. We have to save this HTML file. We have to save this also. Come back. See this. Now we are having this. It is basically having a custom font. And you clearly see the difference. So this text, this is a Superscript H2O, is having a different font family. Well, this is using the Roboto font family. Okay, so this is how you can basically customize your font family. You can, have any font family from this Google font. Okay, so we are having our custom font family over here. We have our, this custom font family H2 over here. So we have seen this, right, till now. Now the next thing which we'll be seeing is, we'll be basically moving into the advanced text styling. Where we'll be, learning a lot more things. Now here is the interesting part. So the part which you have covered till now, it was, a little bit boring, but the things from here will become very much interesting. Okay, so let us move on. So what we'll be doing, we'll be basically creating one more H2 over here. And in this H2, we can say something like advanced, we can say something like advanced text styling, something like that. Save this. Now let us have a paragraph over here. And in this paragraph, we'll be having a class, something like fade in. Let's do this. Now we can simply say this text fade in when the page loads. Okay. Now let us select this class from here. So we can come over here and let us say this class was this fade in, right? You can say fade in. And now we'll be setting the transition, or we can say the animation. We can simply say animation. And now see this animation, it has various things like name, duration, timing function, and it is also having something like as delay and all of this, right? Now let us see what we'll be using. We'll be basically using the name and all of this. Now we'll be having a separate section on the animation. For now, I'm doing this because I want to make the interaction much higher. Now let us select this animation. Now over here in this animation, we can have different things. Now the first thing is the name. Now the name of the animation will be fade in. Now the next thing which we'll be doing is that we'll be having the time, which is 3 seconds, and we can say is in out, something like that. Okay, so the thing will be basically is in out. Okay, now we have to define the keyframes. Come below, and we can have this keyframe, and in this keyframes we can simply say fade in. So we are basically targeting this one, this fade in over here. So we can simply say something like fade in, and here in this fade in we'll be saying that from, and we can say that we want the opacity to be 0 at the start, and when it reaches, I want the opacity to be something as, of 1. Okay, so I can save this. Now what will it do? Let us see. If we come below and let us suppose we refresh this page, see how this text is fading in as we refresh this page. So this is how we are achieving this using this fade in. Okay, so let us understand what we are doing over here. So we are having animation. Now this animation, we have defined the name to be fade in. We have defined this fade in using the keyframe. And what we are saying that we want to make this opacity from 0 to 1 during this 3 second time. We can reduce this time to maybe 1 second, and you'll be seeing this animation, much faster now. So it is much faster now if you see this text, refreshing, right? Okay, now this is in out, it is, we are having different things like is in out, is in, and all of that. We'll be learning all of this as we move on. Now, for now, what you have to know, this fade in is basically doing one simple thing, which is it is increasing the opacity from 0 to 1. So at the starting, the opacity of this text will be 0, which means the text will be hidden. Then as soon as the time finishes, which is 1 second, during this time, we slowly increase the opacity and we bring it to 1 so the text can be visible. That's it. What we are doing over here. So don't be confused. We'll be having a different section on animation. It's an advanced concept, but I want to show you a preview what is possible in CSS. Okay, now let us move on to the next section where we'll be learning about hover effects. Now what is a hover effect? So a hover effect, it basically applies when a person basically moves his cursor and point it to an item. Then we want to make some transitions, or we can say some effects, so it can make the items more engaging for the user. So let us do that. For this, what we'll be doing, we'll be basically coming over here. Let us define another paragraph after this. And this paragraph, we can, simply say that, it will have a class text hover. And then we can say effect. And after this, what we can do, we can say hover over this text to see the effect. Okay. Now, what we'll be doing, we'll be basically, pointing to this class. So we can have this. Let us point this by using the selector. So we can use the class selector. And let us say, we can define few of the things to this before we apply the hover. Like, let us have a font size. And what we can do is, we can say font size. And then we will be having 2M. Now, this is basically M units. And there are different units. We'll be learning about all of this as we'll be moving on with our course. Now, the next thing, let us define the font family. So we can say font family, and we have recently used the Roboto. So let us copy that one. So we can come up, we can use this Roboto font. For this, what we'll be doing, we'll be coming over here. Let us select this one. Copy this, come back, paste this one over here. So our font will be, Roboto. Now, the next thing, what we'll be doing, let us say that the font style, we can say font style to be of type normal. Now, there can be a few more things, like let us give a letter spacing, maybe a letter spacing of 2 pixels, something like that. So let us see the text. So this text, it is basically the text which, have for the fade in. Let us save this one. And now we can see this text which is hover over this text to see the effect, right? Now, what we'll be doing? Okay, so what we'll be doing will be basically creating one more selector. So we can say something like, okay, so now what we'll be doing, we can simply say text hover effect, and then we can apply the Sudo hover class. Now, what is this Sudo hover class? So it basically helps us to modify the behavior of an item upon someone hover over it. So what we can do, we can simply change the color to something like red. So if someone, let us suppose, hover on this text, then the color will change to red. So we can see this. See how the text is basically changing to red, right? Now we can also make this text, or we can make this pointer to be, now we can also make this cursor to be pointer. Let us do that. So we can come over here and we can simply say cursor, and we can say something like pointer, which will basically make this text as, a pointer, right? So now we can point on this text, right? Let us see how we can also change few more things. Like, we can also give underline. So we can simply say text decoration, and let us give underline to this text as we hover over this. See how we are having a underline below this. Now we can also give a text shadow. So we can say text shadow, something like that. And then we can give a shadow maybe 0, 0, 15 pixels. The shadow boundaries of 15 pixels. And we can have something like RGB color. And the color we can give is something like 19 to 55, or it can be 226. And then we can have 226 again. And then the opacity value will be something like 0.5. Let us see. Now, if we hover, we can see that background shadow over there, right? Now, we can also increase the size upon hover. So we can say something like transform, and we can say scale, and let us increase the scale to be maybe 1.1. And if we do it, and if we hover, the text is increasing, right? So now the text is increasing. Now, the next thing, what we'll be doing, we can have the transform origin, because we'll be using this transform origin because we can see this text, it is going towards the left side, right? So we can simply say top left, something like that. And now if we hover, now see the text is at exactly the place where we want it to be, right? Now the next thing which we'll be doing, we'll be decreasing the opacity. We can decrease the opacity to 0.5. Now upon hovering on this, the opacity will be decreased. See, now the text is much lighter, right? So we can decrease the opacity to 0.1. Now see, the text is now much lighter. So now you can understand what opacity was doing over here, right? So in this fade in keyframe, we will actually increase the opacity from 0 to 1. Like we have this opacity of 0, let us suppose, then this text will not be visible after hovering. See, because the opacity is 0. But if we make the opacity 1, text will still be visible entirely. However, we can reduce the opacity to 0.5, which will actually decrease, the visibility by 0.5, right? Now, that's all what we will be doing on this hover effect. Now, in the next section, we'll be learning about text gradient. We'll be understanding how we can give, text a gradient color effect. So let us do that. Okay, so for this, what we'll be doing, we'll be creating another paragraph over here. And let us give it a class of something like text gradient, okay? And then we can have a text over here, like we can say, this, something like this text is having a gradient effect, right? Now, we can use the selector. So we can simply say text gradient over here. And in this text gradient, what we'll be doing, we'll be firstly specifying the font size. Let us say the font size to be something of 2 units, okay, as we have for the remaining one. Let us save this also so we can see this, text over here. Now the next thing will be that we define the remaining things. Like we can say font style to be, of normal. And then we can also have a few more things. Like we can say text transform. Let us make the text to be capitalized. It is done. Now the next thing will be to define a font weight to it. let us have a font weight maybe of 700. Now it is much more bolder. Now the next thing will be, let's have a letter spacing. Let's give 2 pixels. Perfect. Now the next thing which we'll be doing is defining the font family. So we can directly copy this font family which we have used earlier, right? So we can come up, copy this text entirely, come down, paste it over here. Now the next thing which we'll be basically doing is having a background image. So we can simply say background image. Now over here is the main thing. So in this background image, we'll be basically using the linear gradient. For this, what we can do, we can simply say linear gradient. Now we have different things, like we have WebKit linear gradient. So we'll be using this WebKit linear gradient. We'll be discussing about WebKit and all of this in our upcoming sections. So don't worry about that. Now the thing will be 43 degree. We can specify the color. Now the color which we'll be specifying will be something like, we can say hashtag 4158, and then we can say D0. Okay. Now the thing will be that we want it to be 0%. So it will start from 0%. Here basically, it is basically specifying where the color should start. So we are saying that this color will start at 0%. Now we'll be having the another color code which was C85. We can say Sudo C0. Okay. And we can say something like start this color from 46%. And then we can have something for the final one. So we can say FS, and we can say CC70, and let us say we want it to start from 100%, something like that. Or, we can also make it something like 80%, something like that. So let us try to make it 80%. Okay, so it is done. We can say this, this color in the background, right? So make it 100% also. We can do this. Okay, this looking much better now. Now the main problem over here is this: the gradient is in the background, but I want this gradient to, to take this basically this size, right? So how do I do it? For this, what I can do, I can basically clip this background over this text. How do I do it? I can simply say, come over here, and let us come over here, and we can say WebKit, and then in this WebKit, we have this background clip, and let us clip this over the text. And if I do it, I can simply say text. Now, the next thing will be that we have to also define the normal background clip. So we can say background clip. Let us make it also text, something like that. And then we can make the color to be transparent. So we can, show that color, right? Okay. Now see, for this text, this text is having a completely gradient effect, right? But if we don't make this color to be transparent, let us see what will be happening. See, we are unable to see this. Even though the background is clipped on the text, still we are unable to view this. The reason is because this text is having a black color, right? So we are basically removing that by making the color transparent, which will help us to show the background color, okay, which we are having. Now we have this clip property, right? We can remove this WebKit background clip for a second. Let us refresh. Still we'll be able to see it, right? So why are we actually, doing this WebKit, right? Why are we actually making this WebKit? Some browsers like Safari and all of this, they basically have, a WebKit, or we can say, a development kit. Now they basically support this. However, modern websites or modern, we say browsers don't require this prefix anymore. But still, if someone, it is still, he is basically using an old browser, then still he'll be able to, say this gradient color. That's the reason why we are using this WebKit. However, we'll be understanding more about WebKit and all of this in our upcoming sections. So don't worry about that. Okay, so in the next thing, we'll be learning how to, create text gluing effect. For this, what we'll be doing, we'll be creating another paragraph over here. And let us give it a class of maybe something like text glow. And then we can have, paragraph like this. This text is glowing, something like that. Okay. We are having this text below here, right? Now, let us do a few things. Now, the first thing which we'll be doing is that, we can specify the font size. So we can use the class selector and we can say text, glow. So it was our class name, right? And we can have the curly braces. Now what we'll be doing will be simply saying color as to be transparent. So make the color to be transparent. Now the font size, you'll be increasing the font size to something like, we can say 40 pixels. So previously what we have done, in previous one, we made it 2 M units. Let us also make it 2 M units. Perfect. Now the next thing which we'll be doing is giving it a text shadow. So we can simply say text shadow. Now we'll be giving it a layer of text shadows like 0, 0, we can say 10 pixels. And then we can simply say RGBA, let us say 0, 0, 255, 0.1, something like that. And we can have a comma. Now what we'll be doing, we'll be basically copying this one. And let us paste this one below this, okay? At least we can give it. Okay, so what I will be doing, I will be coming over here, paste it once, paste it twice, paste it thrice. Perfect. So this is what we are doing over here. Remove this one for a second. So what are we doing over here? Okay, so we can shift it to a right little bit to make it more clearer. Okay, I will be increasing this, we can say the glow radius 20, then the third one will be basically 30, and the fourth one will be basically 40. Okay, now if we save it, now see this text, it is having a background color, right? So we have to give few more things. We will be giving like a font weight. So something like font weight. Let us give it a font weight of 700. Then let us see. Okay, now we have to do few more things. Like you can say letter spacing. Let us say letter spacing to be 2 pixels. Now the next thing which we'll be doing, we can say text stroke. So we can directly use this text stroke. So we can use this WebKit's, a text stroke. We can say 2 pixels, and let us give it a color of maybe 1E. No, we can say 1E90FF. Okay, and if we save it, just come down. See, this text is now having a glowing effect. We have to do one more thing. This text fill color has to be, transparent. We can say WebKit, and then we can say text. We can say fill color. Let us make it transparent. And if we do so, now we are having this, right? Now we are having this text, and it is a text which we were wanting. Now we can also see few of the things, like we can increase this to maybe 0.333. Let us increase it to 3. Save it. Come down. Now see, this text is glowing, right? So it is having a glowing effect, and that's something which is looking cool, right? So previously we had learned how we can give a shadow, but in this we are basically learning how we can make this text glow, right? So the next thing which we are going to create, it will be super awesome. Okay, so let us create this. For this, what we'll be doing, we'll be creating another paragraph, and let us give it a class of something like gradient loading text. Okay, and let us have a text over here. So we can give any text, subscribe to CodingHub, something like that. Okay, now the next thing which we'll be basically doing, we'll be saving this so we can see this text which is subscribe to CodingHub. Come over here, use the class selector, and the class was basically gradient loading text. So we can simply say gradient loading, and we can say text. Now over here, what we'll be doing, we'll be saying that we can have a font family. So let us have a font family of something like Arial. So we can use this Arial. Okay, after this, what we'll be saying, we can say something like font size. Let us make it something like 5 MANS. Okay, now it's a bigger text, right? Something like that. So we can also decrease it if we want. We can make it 3 units, so it can basically fit over here. Okay, now it is completely fitting over here. So the next thing, which we'll be basically doing, specifying the letter spacing. Let us try to make it something like 2 pixels. Much better. Now the next thing, which we will be basically doing over here, is that we'll be basically giving it a font weight. Let us give it a font weight of 600. Now the next thing, we can give it a background image and let us give it a linear gradient. And now we have to specify the degree. It will be 45 degree. Now the next thing will be to specifying the colors. So the colors will be FF000. Now the next color will be, we can say FF900, or we can have 9900. Now the next color will be something like FF. So it will be 4FF00. Now the next color will be hashtag 00FF00. Now the next color will be hashtag 000FF. Okay, so it will be basically having 4 zeros. Now the next color, which will be basically having 9900FF. And the last color, which will be basically having, will be hashtag FF0FF. Okay, so that's it will be one more zero, I think so. Yeah, we are having this now. Let us save this. Now we are having this subscribe to CodingHub, right? Okay, now let us move into the next section. So now what we'll be doing, we'll be coming here and we can say something like background size, and let us give it a size of 1000 pixels, something like that. Perfect. Let us come down. Okay, now we can have few more things, like we can say, background clip, and let us make it to be text. And now it is again having this thing. Now we'll be requiring few more things, like we have to make the color to be transparent. So we can say transparent. Okay, it is similar to this, but we'll be doing one cool feature using animation. Let us do it. We can simply say animation. So before this, we have to also define the keyframe. So what I will be doing over here, I can come down and I can say keyframes. And here the keyframe name, I can give it like gradient change. What I will be doing over here is that when it will be at 0%, of the, so we are basically saying when it will be at start, I will make the background position to be something like, 0%. So I'm saying so the background position will start from left side and it will be vertically center. For that, I can give 50%. Now at 100%, what I will be doing is I'll be, shifting the complete background position to 1000%. Okay. What it will do is it will basically make this, this thing look like that it is basically moving. So it will start from 0% and the width will gradually increase and it will reach till 1000%, which will make this thing look like, it is basically animating. Now, the next thing we can do is we can make it 50%. So, throughout the period, it is vertically at center. Okay. Now, let us define this over here. Let us come over here. And after this color, we can simply say animation. And here we'll be having the name of the animation, which we have currently specified, which is gradient, so we can say gradient change. Now, the next thing will be the time, how much time we want it to take. Let us say we want it to take 15 seconds. It will be a long duration. Now, the next thing is, like how you want the timing function to be. I want it to be linear. So I want the thing to be linearly grow. Okay. Now, the next thing will be that we save it. Now, if you come back, see, now the text is, it is this animating. But the thing is that if I reduce it to 5 seconds, maybe, let us do that. Now, if we come over here, see, after 5 seconds, it is stopping. So what I can do is, after this, I can make the loop to be infinite. Okay. So now it will infinitely, keep on going on like this. And see how cool it is looking, right? So, and it is also a time that you should now subscribe to the channel, right? It basically helps me to boost myself to create more amazing content like this. Now, we are having one last thing, and that is how can we set our image as a background of a text? Let us do that. For that, what we'll be doing, we'll be basically requiring an image. So, let me take an image. Okay. Okay. So what I have done is I have basically pasted an image over here in the same directory in the name of walk image. So this is the image. Okay. And I will be setting it as the background of, this text. Okay, so let us create another text. We can come over here. Let me minimize this for a second. Let us have a paragraph and let us give it a class like image tag, something like that. And we can say something like niche, right? And now I can save it and I will be getting this niche text below. What I will be doing, I will be coming after this. And now I can simply, select this image tag class. And after this, what I will be doing, I will be basically setting the font size. Let us set the font size to something like 5 MNS. Okay, let us see the text. Okay, so we can actually increase this to maybe 20 MNS. Now let us see. Much better. We can also reduce it to maybe 15. Okay, so we are having our text over here, right? Now the next thing will be to have letter spacing. So let us give it a letter spacing. So I'll be giving it a letter spacing of something like 15 pixels. Let us see how it is looking. Much better. Now the next thing which we'll be basically doing, giving it a weight. So we can say font weight. Let us give it a font weight of 700. Okay. Now the next thing will be that we'll be providing a background image. So we can simply say background image. We'll be having this URL. Now we have to pass the image URL over here. So we can simply say something like, so the image name which we were basically having was this fog image, right? So we can directly say something like fog image. And it was, I think, so fog image.jpg. So it will be fog image.jpg. It's done. Now let us see whether we can see this image. Okay, so the image is there, but it is not wrapping around. So what we'll be doing, we'll be basically saying that we want the background image, or we can say the background size. So we can say background size to be something like contain. And if we do so, okay, now it is there. Okay, now the next thing which we can do is basically make the, background clip. So we can simply say background clip and we can say text and scroll down. Okay, now we have to make this, background also, or we can say color to be transparent. That's it. We can simply say color. Let's make it transparent. Now see, we are able to see that image in the background, right? Now see how cool it is looking, right? Now what we can do is we can decrease this size to maybe 12 MNS so it can, contain in this. Okay. Now we can see how cool it is looking, right? Okay. So this is a wrap around. Now what we have done in this section is that we have understood about how do we create headings. Then we understood about, creating bold and italic text using strong and emphasis. Then we understood about text alignment, how to align text into center or right corner. We learned about text decoration like underline, then we have also understood about text transformation, like changing the text to uppercase, lowercase, or making it capitalized. After that, we understood about letter and word spacing. Then we understood about line height. We understood how to create text shadows, understand about superscript and subscript. Then we have gone through how to, have a custom font family for our text. Then we covered the advanced text styling, like, we have this, this fade in effect. We understood this hover effect. We have this gradient effect. Now, after that, we also have this, this text, which is basically glowing. We have this cool animation. Now, after that, we were having this, this text, which is basically having a background as an image. Okay, so we have covered a lot of things. And believe me, it will take you a little bit time to adjust and learn and remember all of the syntax. So for that, what you should be doing, you should be basically practicing the question. And it has taken you a lot of time, right? So what I will be suggesting you that you take some rest and then you move on with the next section after completing the exercise, which I have attached after this section. Okay, so try to solve the problems, try to take help from different YouTube creators or using ChatGPT or any other AI tools, or take help from your friends or from your teachers from web, but try to create the things by yourself. And even if you are not able to create that things at end, you can still refer to the documentations, which I have basically linked in the description section, and you will be able to find all of that codes in that section.